Good morning, YouTube, on this lovely Sunday morning, 24th January. Today, I will discuss a little bit of space weather, but also the polar vortex. Space weather-wise, there isn't much to tell, but even when conditions are calm, there's always something going on, and actually something got my attention. You see, at midnight, yesterday at midnight, there was a blackout. In itself, this is nothing, happens a lot. So I thought, why not check the metrics? And I found something very interesting. Look at this. This is just before midnight, and you can see these lines are supposed to be a nice circular shape, and they are all twisted, so something happened. Actually, something impacted, a little bit of solar wind, an increase in speed, which is actually strange because if we look at the density, nothing happens with the density, but for some reason it increases in speed. The solar wind so increases in speed, and interestingly enough, our magnetic field gets in trouble. And you can see here, the closed field lines are completely twisted, and at some point, there it is, it opens up completely. So I checked the magnetopause standoff position, and this happens around here. We can clearly see something happens. Is it so when the solar wind sped up? But I don't know if it's impact or something else, but something happens. And then I thought I'd check the magnetosphere, and something caught my attention. You see, this is almost midnight of yesterday, and when we arrive at, there it is, see this, then it happens. It gets energized for some reason without major impact. So I checked the magnetopause position in this metric, and something interesting, and it's actually logic that it happens since there is an opening in the closed field lines. A sudden burst of energy. So the density doesn't increase, only the speed increased of the solar wind, and our magnetic field somehow opened up. This is what happens. And as you can see, this is quite extreme, and there is no major impact or anything. This is just energy pouring in from this crack. And it happens twice, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there it is. See? It happens again. Happens again almost 1 hour later. So, it happens multiple times. And we can clearly see that our magnetosphere is in difficulty. I don't know if it's actually a small CME impact. I haven't checked Enlil spiral, but I don't think it is. I think it's really caused by this over here. So there you have it. Something major happens while there is absolutely no space weather in effect. There is no solar flaring, there is no major CME impact, nothing. Just the speed increased a little bit of the solar wind. Interestingly enough, there's one more thing that I noticed, and it is that for some reason, let's go to midnight of yesterday. Up to 0. I think it is. Yes, let's go. It is the interplanetary magnetic field line. So while this happens, for some strange reason, there's a lot IMF activity. These are field lines which are connected to other planets or the sun, and basically they increased during the speed up of the solar wind. So don't really know what it means. Why it happens, I know what it means, but I don't know why all of a sudden there is an increased activity of IMF field lines. It's probably all related to each other. Probably there was the solar wind, the increase in solar wind weakened our magnetic field, and it's tied to our connection to something, the sun, other planets, don't really know which one, but clearly this has to do with our connection to something else. So there you have it. So even when you think that nothing happens, something always happens in space. Next, let's move on. The polar vortex. This is not really space weather, but I want to address this because this is actually quite strange to see it above Siberia and northern parts of Russia, and when in reality it should be here. So if we look at the South Pole, the polar vortex is supposed to be circular. This is of course the summer, so it's not really active, but still you can see the circular shape, and here it is supposed to be the same thing. This is supposed to be a circle around the Arctic. Now it stretches from Siberia all over to Europe. This is not normal. I know that there was a sudden stratospheric warming. Let me check the temperature. So you see, this is 60-degree latitude to 90, and what it means is this area over here at 1 millibar of atmospheric pressure, there was a sudden stratospheric warming, which spilled over until 10 millibars, and this will have a lasting effect. So this is what I showed the first time. So this will continue before it normalizes into the blue area, and I'm guessing spring will not have normal weather. So it will either be too warm or too cold with extreme weather patterns, because usually a sudden stratospheric warming affects the beginning of spring. And if there are many others, it can last even to summer. So let's hope this is not the case. But I wanted to show this, and I will make a video, yes, before I end this video. So what it means concretely to the temperature. Usually when the polar vortex sits atop, the cold goes along. And you can clearly see this. You can see that the Arctic is simply too warm compared to this. This is -40 to -50 or even more. And this cold is supposed to be in the Arctic. But now it is concentrated on the northern parts of Siberia and western Russia, and this shouldn't be the case. This is a very cold anomaly. This cold is supposed to be in the Arctic, so this will definitely have an impact on the weather of Europe and other parts of Asia. So this is definitely not a good thing. So before I end this video, I wanted to show something actually warm and give a small warning. So I noticed there was yet again a major earthquake, 6.9 magnitude, and it is located on this side of the Ring of Fire. That's why I wanted to show this. So I chose 7 days magnitude above 4.5 magnitude quakes, and usually when you see a lot of activity on one part of the Ring of Fire, it means there's a lot of movement, a lot of tectonic movement that took place, and it's always compensated somewhere in the world, usually at the other side of the Ring of Fire where there isn't much quake activity, because when the pressure releases on this side, all of a sudden it has an impact on regions where pressure has been building up, because there aren't much quakes here. So I would expect in the following days, especially if there's a geomagnetic storm or something, a major quake in this area, either in California or parts of Alaska along this fault line. And I mean by that a big quake, because as you can see, the magnitudes are getting bigger. So expect next week, begin February, maybe a 7 magnitude or 6 magnitude in this area. So people living there should prepare themselves. There might be an earthquake, a major one in this area. This is very worrisome to see that nothing is happening. This means pressure is building up, and at some point it will produce an earthquake. It can be otherwise. So this is the end of the video. As usual, if you like what you saw, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe, and I guess I see you another time. Bye bye. Be safe, everyone.